in the glittering heart of Miami, where wealth and power cast long shadows over the bay. She is a woman who has built her life teaching others to pretend. He is a man who has never learned to feel. She enters his office carrying only a briefcase and principles. He is a man who uses influence as a shield against vulnerability. When their eyes meet across a spotless desk, neither suspects that this moment will shatter the walls they have so painstakingly built. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and share in the comments which city you are from. And don't forget to rate this story. Your opinion is important to us. To Victoria Mendez, the legendary image consultant, Adrienne Russell is just another self-assured billionaire who needs her expertise. To him, she's just a step in a business strategy, a deal, a resource. But what happens when a woman who guards her heart comes face to face with a man who's certain he doesn't have one? What happens when professional boundaries blur and attraction arises where logic used to reign? This is the story of a reluctant matchmaker who never imagined that her greatest professional triumph would be the man who irritated her the most. Tell me, where in the world are you hearing this story? Have you ever found love in the most unlikely places? Brace yourself, because what you're about to hear may forever change the way you view the delicate dance of power and vulnerability. No way. Find someone else to be your relationship guru. Victoria Mendez slammed her laptop shut and gave Adrienne Russell a cold look. He looked genuinely confused by her refusal. "I'm offering 3 times your normal price," he said, as if that would explain everything in his world. Maybe yes. Victoria tucked a strand of straight, dark hair behind her ear, trying to maintain her professional composure. As Miami's most sought-after image consultant, she'd had her share of difficult clients, but Adrienne Russell, he was on another level. "Mr. Russell, I help executives improve their public image through media outreach and strategic philanthropy. I don't advise billionaires on relationships. Adrie," and leaned against the table, crossing his arms over his chest. The floor-to-ceiling windows behind him framed the Miami skyline, as if he had chosen the view himself. "You restored Commissioner Williams' reputation after the tax scandal. You transformed Biotech Solutions from a corporate villain into a community hero. My love life should be easier." Victoria took out her portfolio. "Your dates are not my responsibility. Find a matchmaker." "I tried 3 times. They all failed." There was no confidence in his voice. "The women they chose were only interested in my money or my connections." "What a surprise," Victoria murmured, "Drie," and narrowed his eyes. "The merger with Shimazu Technologies is the most important deal of my career. Their CEO won't sign a contract until he's convinced I'm a stable person. And your version of stability is suddenly getting a girlfriend? The Shimazu family is traditionalist. To them, a 37-year-old bachelor is a sign that I can't be trusted." He adjusted his now perfect tie. "I need to be dating someone for 2 months until the deal closes." Victoria straightened, smoothing her pencil skirt. "Anyway, it's not my job. I would recommend—" "The board is about to vote on funding for the Little Havana Youth Center," Adrienne interrupted. "Your brother's center." Victoria froze. Miguel had been trying to secure financing for years. It was his life's work. "Are you threatening the center? If I refuse?" Adrienne looked almost offended. "I propose a mutually beneficial cooperation. You help me. I help the center. $5 million, to be exact." Victoria couldn't say a word. $5 million could change everything. Building a computer lab, launching scholarships, expanding services for the elderly. "Are you willing to sacrifice $5 million so I can teach you how to date? I'm willing to fast-track the project I've already." "Approved," he said, leaning in a little closer, his voice surprisingly sincere. "Look, I know how it sounds, But this merger will bring 1,000 jobs to Miami. And a woman, accustomed to living by the rules, will break them for the first time. In her life, for everyone but herself, this means funding life-saving medical research. I want this deal. Victoria's professional instincts conflicted with her personal ethics. It was emotional manipulation, but for a cause she believed in. 2 months, she said finally. I'll help you for 2 months, but on my terms. Call them. First, the center's funding must be secured in writing, regardless of whether or not its merger occurs. Adrien nodded. Agree second. You follow my program to the letter. No cuts, no arguments acceptable. Third, no one must know about our agreement. For everyone's information, you just hired me as an image consultant. Agreed. He held out his hand. Shall we shake hands? Victoria reluctantly touched his palm, trying not to notice the unexpected warmth of the touch. That doesn't mean I like you, Mr. Russell. A smile broke across his face, a real smile, not the one practiced for business magazines. I didn't expect more, Miss Mendes. As Victoria stepped out of the Russell Enterprises tower, she felt a sharp, almost visceral sense that she had just made a terrible mistake. Adrien Russell was Miami's most demanding boss. His standards and relentless work ethic were legendary. Employees nicknamed him the Machine for his analytical approach to everything. Everything except ... relationships ... As Victoria approached the car, her phone vibrated. First class tomorrow. 7 o'clock. Breakfast ordered at Mariposa AR. Victoria rolled her eyes. Of course. He's already started dictating the terms. She dialed quickly. Lesson number 1. Don't command ask. Try again. 3 dots. Disappeared. Appeared again. Would you like to have breakfast at Mariposa at 7 o'clock, please? Victoria smiled involuntarily. Maybe there is still hope in him. What she didn't know was that, at that moment, Adrien was standing at his office window, watching her small figure walk away toward her car. He was already calculating the most efficient way to find out everything about Victoria Mendes before breakfast. Adrien Russell has never entered a match unprepared. But this time, all his preparation will be useless against one thing, something he's never encountered in his controlled life: real feeling. The next morning, Victoria arrived at Mariposa 15 minutes early. A strategic move to gain a psychological advantage. The restaurant was nearly empty. The morning sun streamed softly through the Art Deco windows onto the snow-white tablecloths. To her annoyance, Adrien was already there. Good morning, Miss Mendes, he said, standing up. I took the liberty of ordering coffee. Victoria sat opposite, black, one of sugar. Of course you studied me. Adrie, and shrugged unapologetically. I study everyone I work with. That's not how dating works, Mr. Russell. True connections aren't built with intelligence. Adrien, he corrected, and I disagree. Information is the basis of compatibility. Victoria took a sip of perfect coffee. That's why you rejected 3 marriage agencies. You view relationships as transactions. The waiter brought sweets and fresh fruit. Adrien didn't speak until after they left. What's wrong with efficiency? I have clear requirements for a partner, as with any serious investment. Victoria almost choked. Attachment? Tell me, do you really use that word on dates? What would you call this? Relationships, connection, partnership. She watched him closely. Despite his social awkwardness, Adrien Russell was undeniably attractive, tall, with intelligent gray eyes and silver temples. Let's start with something simple. What exactly does the Schmezu family expect to see in your personal life? His face became professional. Traditional family values. Participation in community life. Stability. And what are you looking for more than a successful merger in a relationship? The question seemed to take him by surprise. Haven't really thought about it. You asked me to help you find a real relationship, Victoria said, but you haven't even thought about what you want from it. I told you, Victoria interrupted. It's not what Shimizu wants. What do you want? You? Adrien frowned, as if the question seemed too difficult. Compatibility. Intellectual stimulation. Someone who understands my agenda. Victoria took out a notebook. That's why you can't do that. You're not describing a life partner, but a personal assistant. For a moment, Adrien's face was confused. What's the difference? Victoria laughed, but immediately froze. He was serious. You're hopeless. That's why you need me. Okay, lesson 1. Stop thinking like a CEO. Start thinking like a human being. The phone rang. Adrien looked at the screen and grimaced. I need to answer. He stood up and walked away from the table. His voice immediately turned cold and authoritative. Victoria seized the moment and looked at him intently. There was control in his every movement, from the perfectly tailored suit to the precise precision of his walk. And yet, something about him defied the image of a calm leader. Was it the slight twitch in the corners of his eyes when he smiled? Or the way he held the door for the elderly couple? Or the fact that he'd agreed to fund her brother's center? He came back and put the phone in his pocket. Where were we? For homework, Victoria replied. Tonight you will write down 3 qualities that are absolutely essential to you in a partner, and 3 things that you can compromise in a relationship. It's inefficient. I could make a list of dozens of demands. Just 3, Victoria said firmly. Otherwise you'll start rethinking everything all over again. Okay. And then? So, work on your tactics. When's the next social event? He looked at the screen. Tomorrow is the Children's Hospital Gala. Perfect. I'll go with you as a consultant. I'll observe. I thought you would go as my companion. Victoria shook her head. That would defeat the whole purpose. You have to learn in Seriefrak those you are truly interested in. I observe, but I don't participate. A slight look of confusion crossed Adrien's face, and Victoria realized that, ... She was enjoying this. One more thing, she added. Before tomorrow night, you need to do something ... spontaneous. Excuse me. What? Something unexpected. Unplanned. He frowned. And what is it for? Relationships require flexibility. The ability to act on intuition. When was the last time you did something just because? I felt like this? Silence was an exhausting response. Victoria got up and gathered her things. Here's your second task. Do something spontaneous, and we'll meet at the party tomorrow. Just please don't wear a blue or gray suit. My costumes are absolutely appropriate. Blue and gray say fusion, not fall in love with me. Victoria smiled. Remember our agreement. You follow my program, step by step. Adrien also stood up, his height forcing Victoria to lift her head to maintain eye contact. You like it, don't you? Huge. She turned around, but stopped suddenly. Oh, yes, Adrien. Next time you collect information. About a person, remember, the data doesn't show total in terms of. I've been drinking oat milk coffee for 3 months. Victoria pulled away, feeling his gaze on her. And perhaps for the first time in years, Adrien Russell was disturbed. That alone was worth all the madness. He watched her leave, his mind gathering. Victoria Mendes was nothing like he'd imagined. The analytics said, intelligent, ambitious, principled. But they didn't convey her wit ... or the unexpected warmth behind the cold efficiency ... The phone vibrated again. Reminder, strategic meeting, merger with Shimizu, and for the first time, Adrien didn't go to the office immediately. He thought about it. What did it mean to be spontaneous? In 37 years of life, He couldn't remember an impulsive act. Maybe it's time to take the first step. Victoria adjusted the navy blue gown that clung to her sculpted body and looked around the opulent ballroom of the Children's Hospital. The crowd glittered beneath the crystal chandeliers. Miami's elite, dressed in designer gowns and impeccably tailored tuxedos. She stood by a marble column, with a perfect view of the main entrance, waiting for Adrien to appear. 8:15. He was late. For the first time since they had known each other. "Are you waiting for someone?" Victoria turned. Miguel's smile, charming in a rented tuxedo, shone in the dim light. His brother worked wonders with the troubled teens at his center, but he still couldn't master the bow tie. "Let me fix it," she said, holding out her hand. "What are you doing here?" "These tickets cost a fortune." Funny story. Someone anonymously donated 10 tickets to our center for staff and board members. Miguel arched an eyebrow. "Anyone have any idea who would be so generous to us?" Victoria kept a straight face. "I have no idea." "Of course," he said incredulously. "Surely this has nothing to do with your new client? The one you refuse to talk about? Confidentiality is the basis of my business." "Yeah," Miguel chuckled softly and grabbed 2 champagne flutes from a passing waiter, handing one to her. "So you won't be embarrassed that Adrien Russell is interested in you? Very specific." Victoria almost choked. "What?" "He was with us yesterday. He spent 2 hours with the kids playing basketball, asked about the center's programs, and asked casual questions about his consultant." The thoughts in her head began to spin. Adrien, basketball. This man who seemed to have a schedule for even breathing. What questions exactly? "Ah, what makes you laugh? What's your passion? Are you dating someone?" Miguel smiled mischievously. "Purely for professional reasons, of course." "Of course." Victoria echoed. "I like him," Miguel said. "There's a human being beneath that robotic shell. He got to Javier, you know, the one no one can get to. I played chess with him for an hour." Victoria didn't need an answer. The room suddenly froze. Conversation ceased. All eyes turned to the entrance. Adrien Russell appeared. And he wasn't alone. A tall blonde in a scarlet dress held his arm, laughing at something he'd said. Even from a distance, it was impossible not to recognize her. Natalia Santos, supermodel, influencer. "Wow," Miguel whistled. "He doesn't seem that interested in you." Victoria ignored the sudden wave of disappointment. "He's a client, Miguel." Nothing more. She watched Adrien move through the crowd with impeccable ease, accepting congratulations and introductions. He ignored her advice about his suit and looked like he'd just stepped off the cover of a glossy magazine in a perfectly fitting black tuxedo. "Sorry," Victoria whispered. "I need to go for a walk." She walked among the guests, maintaining a professional smile, but watching Adrien out of the corner of her eye. His demeanor was perfect. Attentive and polite, he lightly touched Natalia's back as he led her through the ballroom. Any observer would have assumed they were a couple. And of course, that was exactly what he wanted to convey. Victoria was so focused on his performance that she almost bumped into him when he suddenly appeared in front of her. "Miss Mendes," he said formally, but there was something dangerous in his eyes. "Mr. Russell," she nodded coolly. "A beautiful evening." Natalia gave him a dazzling smile. "Adrien, dear, could you introduce us?" "Of course. Natalia Santos. This is Victoria Mendes, partner." "Partner?" Natalia asked with her unchanging smile. "How interesting. And what field do you work in, Victoria?" "Corporate image consultancy." Recognition shone in Natalia's eyes. "Oh, so you're the genius who saved a cosmetics company after the massive animal testing scandal. I almost worked with you last year after my, unfortunate tweet." Adrienne raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Do you know each other?" We've never met, Victoria clarified. But the professional circle in Miami is getting tighter by the minute, Natalia replied, glancing quickly at her phone screen. Adrienne, my dear, my agent will call you back any minute. She gave him a light kiss on the cheek and walked away gracefully. When they were alone, Victoria crossed her arms over her chest. Is this what you call spontaneity? Taking a supermodel to a charity event? You yourself said to do something unexpected. I called Natalia this morning. Impulsively? Impulsively? You've known her for years. She was the face of your advertising campaign for a luxury resort. Adrienne looked surprised. You prepared well. It's called Google. But don't get off topic. That's not what I meant by spontaneity. You should be satisfied. I'm taking your advice. I'll seem like a more desirable date if I show up with another woman at the event where you're teaching me how to network. He looked at her intently. You are angry. I'm a professional, Victoria snapped. And as your consultant, I say, bring ... a rented escort. Natalia is not a rent-a-partner. She's a friend. This won't help you learn how to build real, sincere relationships. Adrienne took a step forward and lowered her voice. You yourself refused to be my company. I needed company for the night, and couldn't you have mentioned this before? Would that change anything? No answer was necessary. Natalia responded as if following a script. She slid her hand under Adrienne's elbow with impeccable confidence. The crisis is over, she announced. And now Adrienne promised me a dance, and I always keep my promises. I won't hold you back, Victoria said calmly, taking a step back. Victoria ... Adrienne hesitated. Good evening, Mr. Russell. We'll discuss the progress of the process at our next meeting. She turned and walked toward the terrace, maintaining calm and dignity. The humid heat of the Miami night enveloped her. The city lights reflected in the bay waters. Victoria took a deep breath, trying to sort out her feelings. It was just a job. Adrienne Russell was just a client. Thankfully, he'd found a suitable partner without her help. So why did she feel so hurt that he was with Natalia? Your brother said you were here. Victoria turned. Adrienne was standing in the doorway, alone. Where is your partner? Natalia is not my date. She did me a favor. He came closer, stood beside her, looking at the city lights. I just wanted an answer to one question. Which? Will I be able to make you jealous? Victoria looked at him. Excuse me, what? Your reaction confirmed my hypothesis. He said with a slightly too satisfied smile. You're not as indifferent as you try to appear. That's the most self-satisfied. She began, but he interrupted. You yourself spoke of spontaneity. Yesterday, I visited your brother's center. I played basketball with teenagers. I lost at chess to a 12-year-old genius. And in 2 hours, I learned more about you than in all my research. Victoria froze. Was that a spontaneous joke of yours? Just one part. The second is to ask Natalia to help test a theory. About my relationship coach's feelings. I don't have feelings. I have professional boundaries, and you're crossing them. Lie to yourself if you want. Adrienne's voice softened. But don't lie to me. I built an empire because I can see patterns. And there's one here. Before Victoria could respond, the patio doors opened again. The guests filed out, surrounding Adrienne with conversations about donations and hospital projects. The moment passed as if it had never happened. Victoria silently walked away and headed toward the bar. I'm going, she told her brother. I have to get up early tomorrow. Miguel looked at her with half-closed eyes. This has nothing to do with Russell and his model, right? Don't start. To me, Miguel said, this all seems like the beginning of something interesting. He couldn't take his eyes off you all night. Natalia noticed too. I heard her teasing him about it. Victoria grabbed her purse. I won't. Discuss it. As you wish, sister. Miguel kissed her cheek. But perhaps you should consider that your billionaire client is getting more out of these classes than you expected. As her car pulled away from the hotel, Victoria's phone rang with a message. Lesson learned. Spontaneity brings unexpected results. Next session tomorrow. My office, 2 p.m. I'll bring oat milk. E.R. Despite herself, Victoria smiled. Adrene. Russell was annoying, sassy, and far too perceptive. And despite her best efforts, she was starting to like it. Victoria entered Adrienne's office promptly at 2:01 p.m., her 1-minute delay a minor challenge. She had spent the morning convincing herself that Adrienne Russell was a client, nothing more. The strange butterflies in the stomach feeling at the thought of chatting on the terrace was simply a professional concern. When she walked in, Adrien was on a video call, but he ended it immediately. I need forecasts for tomorrow, he told the screen and hung up. You didn't have to interrupt the meeting, Victoria said, settling in front of his desk. You're on my calendar. I don't schedule double meetings. Adrien pushed the cup towards her. Oat milk, as promised. Victoria accepted the coffee, noticing that he had traded his usual suit for dark gray pants and a light blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up. The casual look highlighted his muscular forearms and made him seem almost approachable. About yesterday, she began. Yes, I need to explain. You need to be professionally polite. Bringing Natalia here, without warning, undermined our agreement. Adrien leaned back. You're right. I apologize. Victoria blinked, surprised by his easy admission. Thank you. However, he continued, my methods have produced valuable data. I'm not data, Adrienne. Maybe, but your reaction said a lot. He got up and went to the window. You say it's just work, but you were clearly upset when you saw me with Natalia. Victoria remained neutral. I was concerned about the effectiveness of our strategy. An interesting theory, Adrien said, looking at her with his piercing gray eyes. Let me suggest an alternative. You're as attracted to me as I am to you. The bluntness of his words left her speechless for a moment. This is completely unacceptable, she said finally. Really? We are adults and free people with common interests. Our interest is a commercial transaction that requires professional boundaries. Adrien nodded thoughtfully. What if I terminate the contract? Sorry? I can donate $5 million to your brother's center. No strings attached. Then we can explore this attraction without ethical complications. Victoria stood up and grabbed her portfolio. The meeting is over. Did I offend you? You will reduce our relationship to a simple transaction that you can delete when it is inconvenient. Adrien frowned. That wasn't my goal. Your goal is to buy your way out of discomfort. And that's the problem with your approach to relationships. Victoria headed for the door. Money doesn't solve everything. Adrienne. He reached her in 3 long strides, touching her hand gently. Victoria, please wait. Something in his voice, genuine puzzlement, made her pause. I'm not good at this, he admitted quietly. Emotions, connections. My whole life has been full of business problems, and I just needed to solve them. Victoria turned to him. So why do you need a merger if it requires people's skills you don't have? Because it matters. Shimzu Medical Technology can help millions. And frankly, everyone, my board, my advisors, and even Natalia has been saying for years that my approach to life is incomplete. The vulnerability in his confession caught Victoria off guard. Behind the confident billionaire facade lay a man, genuinely trying to understand something that defied calculations and profit and loss tables. Sit down, she said, returning to her seat. Let's start from the beginning. Relief crossed Adrien's face as he sat up. I apologize for suggesting we terminate our agreement, he said formally. It was an awkward attempt to resolve a situation I don't fully understand. Apology accepted, Victoria replied. Let's be clear. This is still a professional relationship. But I understand that emotions can be confusing if you're not used to analyzing them. They're ineffective, Adrien agreed, smiling weakly. But they are necessary, Victoria objected, especially for what you are trying to achieve. She took out a notebook. Have you completed your first task? 3 qualities in a partner that are essential to you and 3 qualities you bring to the relationship. Adrien held out a folded piece of paper. Victoria opened it and was surprised to see handwritten notes instead of a printed document. In qualities I need: intelligence and intellectual curiosity. Independence and self-confidence. Honesty, even when it's inconvenient. In what I bring to the relationship. Loyalty and devotion. Resources. To support your partner's goals and dreams. Willingness to learn and change. Victoria read the list twice, unexpectedly touched by its sincerity. It's really good, she admitted. You look surprised. I expected a list of requirements. MBA, minimum growth, all kinds of bureaucracy. Adrien laughed, a warm, deep laugh she had never heard from him before. I thought about it, he admitted. But after our conversation and the visit to the center, I realized I was doing it all wrong. How exactly? I was looking for someone who would fit perfectly into my life. Someone who wouldn't disrupt my carefully organized world. His eyes met hers. But that's not what I really want. And then? Someone who challenges me, who sees me not just through the prism of wealth and business, but for my true self. The strength of his gaze forced Victoria to look down at her notes. It's an important realization, she said, trying to maintain a professional distance. It's a sign of growth. Thanks. Adrien looked at his watch. I have a meeting with representatives of the Shmesu family in 30 minutes. Would you be willing to continue the conversation over dinner? Victoria hesitated. Dinner seemed a step too far. It's a business dinner, he clarified. The Shmesu family will be there. Your presence as my image consultant is logical and will give you the opportunity to observe my interactions with them. It was a reasonable offer, consistent with their agreement. But Victoria sensed a shift in their dynamic, a dangerous blurring of the professional and personal. What time? She asked, despite her internal resistance. At 7 in Aful. I'll send a car. I'll go myself, she said, emphasizing her independence. Adrien nodded, accepting this. And one more thing, he added as she was about to leave. I was serious about funding the center, regardless of our agreement. I've already instructed the lawyers to prepare the documents. Victoria looked at him closely, searching for a catch, but saw only sincerity. Thank you, she said finally. It means a lot to Miguel. For me too, he replied. It's not an attempt to buy peace. It's a desire to do something meaningful with the resources I'm fortunate enough to have. Victoria felt more confused than ever as she left the Russell Enterprises building. Adrien Russell was supposed to be the arrogant billionaire who needed her help to appear human. Instead, he was revealing unexpected sides of his humanity to her, and feelings she definitely hadn't planned on feeling were slowly growing stronger. Dinner with the Shimizu family tonight is all business, she told herself firmly. A chance to see Adrien in his natural environment and give him valuable advice. But why did it feel almost like a date? Zal is Miami's most exclusive restaurant, an elegant beachfront eatery where reservations were made at least 3 months in advance. Victoria handed the keys to the valet as she straightened her emerald silk dress, the perfect balance of professionalism and elegance. Miss Mendes, the matron greeted her. Mr. Russell's guests are already at the table. Please follow me. She was led through the dimly lit room to a private dining area overlooking Biscayne Bay. Adrie, and stood up, his face visibly hotter. Victoria, thank you for joining us. He turned to the three Japanese guests at the table. Let me introduce Victoria. Mendes, my American cultural consultant. Victoria bowed slightly as she shook hands, noting the skillful positioning of her paper. She sat next to Adrien, across from an elegant older man with a piercing gaze. Miss Mendes, I'm Takashi Shimizu, he said in perfect English. This is my son Hiroshi and my wife May. It's a pleasure to meet you, Victoria replied. I've read about your company's innovative advances in medical technology. Takashi nodded in approval. Mr. Russell said you're helping him get used to some of the social aspects of American business. Adrien values comprehensive preparation in all his endeavors, Victoria said softly. Conversation flowed as the appetizers were served. Adrien discussed business with confidence, while Victoria observed the subtle nuances of communication. It was clear that Takashi held the power, though he often deferred to his son on technical matters. May spoke little, but she didn't let anything slip, watching Victoria and Adrien closely. When Hiroshi started talking about kids, Takashi turned to Adrien. And you, Mr. Russell? Don't you have a family yet? Under the table, Adrien's hand briefly brushed Victoria's, a gesture that might have seemed accidental, if not for the way his fingers deliberately lingered over hers. Not yet, he replied. But I understand the importance of balancing family and work. My father built our company on the backs of personal relationships. I'm learning from his mistakes. Victoria looked at him in surprise. He had never talked about his father before. That's sensible, Takashi said approvingly. Business is important, but family is forever. The conversation turned to Miami's cultural attractions, and May mentioned their interest in art. Victoria is on the board of the Museum of Modern Art, Adrien said. Perhaps she could arrange a private tour for you during your visit. Victoria kept her smile, though she was surprised. She was indeed on the museum's board, but she hadn't told Adrien about it. With pleasure, she agreed, making a mental note that later she would certainly ask how he had studied her so thoroughly. When May went to the bathroom, Victoria followed. Her, sensing an opportunity in the elegant ladies' room, May carefully touched up her lipstick, watching Victoria in the mirror. You and Mr. Russell make a striking couple, she commented. Oh, no, Victoria replied automatically. No? May raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. Sorry, but the way he looks at you, that's not true. Victoria felt her cheeks heat up. Our relationship is strictly professional. I see. May turned to face her. In Japan, they believe a man's true character can be discerned by how he treats those closest to him. Mr. Russell speaks of you with great respect. Adrien respects all of his colleagues. Victoria replied calmly. Victoria replied cautiously. Maybe, but he doesn't look at his other colleagues the same way he looks at you. May smiled with secret knowledge. My father-in-law is concerned about Mr. Russell's personal stability. I believe these issues are being resolved. Before Victoria could respond, May gracefully withdrew, leaving her alone with the disturbing realization that the Shimizu's family had completely misunderstood her. Returning to the table, Victoria found Adrien deep in conversation with Hiroshi about the bonding moment. He glanced at her as she sat down, and his hand accidentally brushed against hers. Another seemingly innocent touch filled with hidden intimacy. Victoria remained professional throughout dessert, participating in the conversation, trying not to notice the heat that spread through her body with each of the low words he said in her ear. After dinner, the Shimizu's family went out to wait for the car, leaving Victoria and Adrien alone on the street in front of the restaurant. Everything went well, Adrien said, genuinely pleased. Takashi mentioned they were inclined to accept our offer. I'm glad, Victoria replied coolly. Although, it seems to me, they have a serious misunderstanding of my role. Adrienne's expression remained calm. In what way exactly? Do they think we're romantically involved? And does that bother you? It bothers me that you're the one encouraging. This misunderstanding, Victoria said. The under-the-table touching, the private comments ... You're deliberately creating the impression that we're a couple. Hadrien approached. Would it be so terrible? It would be unprofessional and dishonest. Is it unfair, if that's what I really want? Victoria looked at him. What do you mean? I'm saying I can't stop thinking about you, Hadrien admitted, losing his usual composure. Your smile, your intelligence, the way you're not afraid to challenge me. Adrienne, let me finish. All my life I've made rational decisions, weighing the risks and benefits. But with you, she trailed off. The calculations aren't important, he interrupted. For once, I want something that can't be measured or analyzed. Victoria felt her carefully constructed professional barriers crumble. That's not part of our agreement. Screw the deals, Hadrien said with unexpected passion. I'll still fund Miguel's center. I'll find another way to convince the Schmeezes. But I can't pretend this is just business anymore. He stepped closer, his gray eyes shining in the moonlight. Tell me you don't feel that way either, and I'll never bring it up again. Victoria knew how to respond, what boundaries to maintain. But the words wouldn't come. I can't tell you. That, she whispered. Hadrien's hand gently touched her cheek. And now, for the first time in my overly planned life, I will do something completely spontaneous. He leaned in slowly, giving her a chance to pull away. But Victoria rose to meet him, and their lips met, gently at first, but quickly merging into each other, sweeping away all rationality. When they finally broke apart, Victoria took a deep breath. It was inevitable, Hadrien whispered hoarsely. Car horn honked nearby, breaking the moment. Victoria recoiled, reality breaking in with renewed vigor. This is a mistake, she said. You're still my client. The deal with the Schmeezes is still ongoing. There are 1,000 reasons why this can't be possible. Hadrien grabbed her hand. I can list all the logical arguments against it, but this? Time logic isn't important. She must be important, Victoria insisted, pulling her hand away. We can't just throw away weeks of work because of feelings, Hadrien suggested. Temporary madness, Victoria corrected him, gathering her thoughts. We need to take a step back and think clearly. Adrienne looked closely at her face. You're scared. I'm a realist. This can't work. Can't or. Don't want to? Both, Victoria said firmly, though her heart was pounding treacherously. I have to go. Adrienne didn't stop her as she turned toward the parking lot, but her calm words followed her. Victoria, this isn't the end. Some equations don't solve themselves immediately, but that doesn't mean they can't be solved. In the car, Victoria gripped the steering wheel, trying to calm her breathing. Adrienne Russell had kissed her so hard she was speechless in front of Miami's most exclusive restaurant. And she had kissed him back with equal passion. What scared her most wasn't the professional difficulties. It was how right it was, and how much she wanted to do it all over again. 3 weeks later, Victoria stood in the center's empty gymnasium, surrounded by blueprints and paint samples. Plans for the Miguel Center's renovation were laid out on folding table's new computer. Labs, expanded classrooms, a professional kitchen for culinary programs. You're overthinking the color choice, Miguel said, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. Kids don't care if the wall is off-white or pearly white. Victoria accepted the coffee gratefully. There is power in the details. Speaking of specifics, Miguel leaned against the table. Can you tell me why you're hiding behind paint samples instead of responding to Adrienne Russell? He's been trying to reach you for weeks. Victoria stared at the dull beige shade. There's nothing to talk about, really? Because he seemed desperate yesterday when he showed up at my office. What? He asked if everything was okay with you. He wanted to understand if he had done something wrong. Miguel studied his sister's face carefully. The crook clearly hasn't slept in days. His merger closes tomorrow. That's probably why he's nervous. It's funny, Miguel said calmly, that the funding for our center came in last week. 5 million, no strings attached. Victoria put down the cup. He had already made a donation before the merger closed, with a note that the donation was not contingent on commercial agreements. Miguel crossed his arms. Tell me what's really going on between you two. Victoria sighed, finally meeting his gaze. I kissed him. Or he kissed me. Probably both. And that's a problem, because it's completely unprofessional. He hired me to help him look good for a relationship, not to get us romantically involved. But you like him, Miguel said. It doesn't matter. It's the only thing that matters. Miguel's voice softened. Vicky, you've spent your entire life helping others show the world their best selves. When will you stop hiding behind professionalism and let people see the real you? Victoria looked at her brother. I'm not hiding, really? Because it sounds like you're using professional boundaries as an excuse to avoid getting hurt. Miguel held up the paint sample. By the way, the kids chose a yellow sunrise for the playroom. Sometimes a simple, bold choice is the right one. He squeezed her shoulder and left her alone with her thoughts and a mountain of discarded flowers. Victoria's phone vibrated. A message had arrived. She expected a message from Miguel, but instead, the name Adrienne appeared on the screen. Tomorrow is the Shimezu signing ceremony at 10 a.m. I saved a spot for you. No pressure, no expectations. I just thought you should see what you helped create. Victoria stared at the message, her finger hovering over the reply field. But before she could type, another one arrived. Whether you come or not, thank you for everything. The sheer sincerity of those words made his throat tighten. 3 weeks of evasion, unanswered calls and messages, and he still thanked her. Victoria made a decision. She quickly typed a message before changing her mind. I go. Russell Enterprises headquarters buzzed with anticipation. The next morning, Victoria discreetly made her way to the auditorium where reporters and executives had gathered for the merger announcement. She chose a seat in the back row, unprepared to meet Adrienne before the ceremony. The phone flashed with a message. You came. She looked up to see Adrienne standing on the stage, his eyes blatantly searching hers across the crowded room. He looked impeccable in his dark gray suit, but the dark circles under his eyes confirmed Miguel's words. He hadn't slept well. Before she could respond, Takashi Shimizu entered the hall with his family, and the ceremony began. Victoria watched as Adrienne delivered a flawless speech about how the merger would revolutionize access to medical technology in underserved communities. This partnership isn't just about business. His voice echoed loudly in the room. It's about connecting human innovation to human needs, building relationships that make a real difference. His gaze found her again, and Victoria felt the weight of that gaze like a touch. After the documents were signed, the champagne flowed freely, and executives and journalists mingled in the room. Victoria remained where she was, not daring to approach Adrienne in the crowd. The decision was made by Mei Shimizu, who separated from the group and went straight towards him. Miss Mendez, she greeted warmly. I was hoping to see you today. Congratulations on the merger, Victoria replied, standing up and shaking his hand. Thank you. Mei looked at Adrienne, who was talking intensely with Takashi. He's changed since we met 6 months ago. He's become more human. Despite everything, Victoria smiled. He'd always been human, just with different priorities. My father-in-law was skeptical about entrusting the family legacy to such a mechanical man. But you helped him see beyond the tables. Did Adrien do this alone? Victoria asked softly. He just needed the right motivation. What motivates you, Mrs. Mendez? May asked, surprisingly direct. Fear or opportunity? Before Victoria could respond, Takashi called May back to the group. With a mischievous smile, she returned to her family, leaving Victoria to ponder the question, fear or opportunity. For weeks, she chose fear of crossing professional boundaries, fear of being hurt, fear of ruining her carefully controlled life. Isn't that what she accused Adrien of? Victoria braced herself and walked toward the crowd around Adrien. He seemed to sense her approach. He turned, and his face lit up when he saw her. Excuse me, he told reporters. I need to talk. He met her halfway, maintaining a professional distance despite the obvious emotion in his eyes. You came, he said simply. Congratulations on the merger. Thank you. This wouldn't have happened without you. Victoria shook her head. You would find a way. You are determined. A slight smile appeared on Adrien's lips. I've been called nicer names, but I accept them. They sat in awkward silence until they both spoke at the same time. Adrienne, Victoria, may I? They both laughed. At the coincidence. You first, Adrien said. Victoria took a deep breath. I was unfair to you. I hid behind professionalism because I was afraid. Afraid of what? He asked. I was afraid of how much I cared about you, she admitted. How quickly you went from a snobbish customer to someone I couldn't stop thinking about. Hope shone in Adrien's eyes. And is that good or bad? I haven't decided yet, Victoria said honestly. But this time I want to really find out. No contracts, no business agreements, just us. Adrien's smile was different, sincere, open, happy, a smile Victoria had never seen before. I like it too. I have conditions, Victoria warned, though she couldn't help but smile back. Sure, he leaned closer. Say their names. First, let's take it slow. Let's get to know each other outside of the business context. Adrien nodded. That's reasonable. Second, stop probing me. If you want to know something, just ask. It will be difficult, he admitted. But I agree. And third, Victoria's voice softened. No more hiding behind professionalism or logic when it comes to feelings. For none of us. Adrien added with special emphasis. For none of us. She agreed. Adrien's eyes fell to her lips and then returned to her gaze. Would it be unprofessional if I kissed you right now in front of all of Miami's business elite and several news? Cameras? Victoria River High. Does that bother you? She remembered Miguel's words about May's question. Fear or opportunity? No more, she said, standing on tiptoe to touch his lips. The kiss was gentle and short, appropriate for a public place, but full of promise. When they left, there was applause and a few whistles. Victoria blushed. Adrien pulled her closer to him by the waist. Have dinner with me tonight. A real date, not a business meeting. I really would like to. I'm warning you. He pretended to be serious. I'm considered terrible at dating. Victoria smiled back at him. Fortunately, I am an excellent teacher. A year later, Victoria was adjusting the picture frame on the wall of her new office. Mendes Consulting, building real connections. The company now occupied the entire top floor of the building, overlooking the bay, a far cry from the small room it had originally been. The plant is near the window, Adrien said, entering with a large potted palm. It distributes the light better. Victoria rolled her eyes affectionately. Of course, you calculated the ideal solar radiation. Old habits die hard. He placed the palm tree on the ground and hugged it, although over the year I'd become much more spontaneous, haven't I? It's a moot point, Victoria smiled. pressing her lips to his as he kissed her. You're still making vacation planning spreadsheets. Efficient. Preparation is the ultimate pleasure, he replied, gently tucking a strand of her hair behind her ear. There was a knock on the door. Miguel came in with a stack of flyers. If you can finally stop being terribly in love for even 5 minutes, we'll have a meeting with the foundation board in 20. He threw the leaflets on Victoria's desk. The programs for the new community centers are ready for consideration. The Mendes Russell Foundation, launched 6 months ago, has already funded 5 centers in Miami's most disadvantaged neighborhoods. Miguel became the executive director, taking his passion for community service to a much larger stage than he ever imagined. We'll be there soon, Victoria promised. After Miguel left, Adrien took a small velvet box out of his pocket. Before we go, I have something for you. Victoria held her breath. Adrien, he smiled. It's not what you think, but we'll definitely have that conversation later. He opened the box and found an elegant silver key inside. What is that? The key to my apartment. Adrien's expression turned serious. I know. We agreed to take things slow, but after a year of dating, the best year of my life, I want to ask if you'll move in with me. Victoria took the key and felt a warmth spread through her chest. You know, for someone who used to treat relationships like corporate mergers, you've become surprisingly romantic. I had a great teacher, Adrien replied, looking into her eyes. Does that mean yes? Yes, Victoria confirmed, standing on tiptoe too. Kiss him again, but I'm leaving my office. A little independence is essential. Adrien laughed. I wouldn't have it any other way. Walking hand in hand to the board meeting, Victoria was amazed at how much her life had changed in just a year. The arrogant billionaire who tried to hire her as a dating coach became her partner. In everything, business, charity, and love, she intended to teach Adrien how to build real connections. Instead, they both realized that the most valuable connection was the one between them, a connection that no contract can define or commercial. Agreement can limit. It turns out that the most unwanted matchmaker became the author of his best union.